Discover how to get an AI-powered executive assistant for CEO productivity in today's session with Hoyin Cheung, and he is the founder and CEO of Hermessi, and that is a cutting-edge remote executive assistant service dedicated to revolutionizing executive support in the AI-driven era. Welcome to Awakened Titans podcast with Lily Patrascu, mind-blowing conversations with influential business titans sharing how you can manifest abundance, love, joy, success through quantum awakening, quantum manifestation, quantum healing, quantum miracles, exponential business growth, and innovative products and services. Now, the first question is, can you explain what an AI-powered executive assistant is and how that can help us to be more productive as a CEO?
That's a great question. First of all, Lily, thank you so much for having me on board. I'm super excited to be here. So what that means is that we have EAs that are working normally and using, the average tools or just normal Word docs. And then you have EAs that are using ChatGPT. They're not just using ChatGPT, they're using Perplexity and all these different AI tools, and that we train them on how to use them for each of the individual use cases. So what we basically do is we have identified all the most common playbooks that C-level execs do. So it might be like clearing out their inbox, doing their calendaring, doing research for them, communicating with the rest of their team, or making sure that they are organizing events, for example. For each of these common playbooks, we actually have an AI innovation lab that basically identifies a combination of AI tools, AI prompts, humans, and any other tools to increase the productivity of that workflow. So at the end of the day, you have an EA who is 2 to 3 times more productive, which at the end makes you as a C-level exec more productive.
Thank you. How does that differ versus traditional assistants?
So traditional assistants are not using ChatGPT, or maybe they're just using ChatGPT at a very light level, but we're teaching them how to use ChatGPT at the very, very edge. Basically, someone who is like a very good prompt engineer, or someone who has developed a really complex automation, for example, for lead generation, we train them on all of that. So they become imagine them as like a very tech savvy individual who knows how to leverage technology to make the most out of doing any kind of task.
Thank you. How did you first become interested in AI and AI tools to drive exponential business growth in your work and your business? And how did using AI tools and AI-powered executive assistants help you to grow your business?
Yeah, sure. That's a great question. So I first got interested, like everyone's been looking at AI. And the challenge is that not everyone is using AI actually. If you look at the United States, only about maybe 30% of people are actually using AI probably at least once. So that means not all of them are actually using it really frequently. And so there's actually really a big opportunity for arbitrage in terms of like people who are not using it and people who are. And the people who are and know how to use it, they can be way, way more productive than the average person. And that allows you to gain more edge. Because nowadays in business, what are there any ways really for businesses and people to gain more edge over their competitors? And so I got really interested in that. And so it's really a lot about productivity, but we could have trained most people how to learn how to use AI, but we really focus on the EA because the EA is critical to an executive's productivity and what an executive needs to be focused on. And so we decided to really focus on how making the EA more productive. And what was your second question?
So how did you use executive assistants in order to help your company grow?
Absolutely. So we use our executive assistants for all the same things that any of our clients would use executive assistants. We use them for lead generation. We use them to book hotels and book flights. We use them to do research. We use them to build out our processes and our systems. We use them to do a lot of prompt engineering research. So all the same things that they're doing for us, what they're doing for them. The biggest one that impacts our growth, obviously, is lead generation, but we also train them on how to do recruiting. So we train them on our style of recruiting as well, and they also do training as well. Like we bring our EAs across all of the different areas of our business, so it is very inherent in the blood of our business.
Thank you. What are the top 3 productivity tools that leverage AI that executive assistants you have in your database typically tend to use to help the modern CEO optimize their business?
So obviously ChatGPT, Claude, I mean, that's a really obvious one. So we've trained them on how to, so for example, ChatGPT o1 preview, like the newest model that just came out. So we were able to figure out what are all of the different prompts that apply to all of the existing playbooks and workflows for a CEO. So we're able to kind of just understand what are the most effective things. In fact, ChatGPT o1 preview has been able to have much more advanced reasoning that we can use it for more use cases that we previously could not. So that's obviously one. Second one that we use are obviously like Canva AI. We use Canva AI to help us with like graphic generation. So it doesn't look like, we basically be able to teach them not to create generic designs, but in combination with AI and more curation, how to make those designs look a lot more better. And then in some other tools that we've used that basically try to help and write in the executive's voice. So it's a specific trained model that we use after we gather like social media posts, other emails, we bring them all together, and we have this model that basically then sounds like the executive when they're writing. And so the EA will then write a paragraph and then put it in the model, and then the model will say, okay, this is what the exec would sound like, and then we use that.
Thank you. What are the top problems modern CEOs face, and how do AI-powered executive assistants help them to solve it with AI tools?
Yeah, sure. So the top problems that a lot of them face is that there is really growth in revenue. That's a big one. So we help them solve growth and revenue we do lead generation, we do prospecting, we do all that kind of stuff for them just as a baseline. Another one is that we help them do social media branding. This one's actually really popular because a lot of CEOs want to maximize their brand on LinkedIn. And so we help them from the concept to actually writing and then to actually putting it on LinkedIn and then doing all the engagement on there. One example is that anybody who engages with some of the social posts that the C-level exec produces, we automatically then engage with those leads and bring them into a conversation and make them, move them down the funnel. That's one. Another one is that a lot of execs are just really overwhelmed. And so we help them organize their time. We help them balance their work and also their personal. So typically EAs and VAs, maybe they just do work related stuff. So we view that your work life and your home life are really integrated, because after the pandemic, as we all work from home, in reality, those two things have really merged together. And so current EAs and VAs don't really approach it that way. But our approach is very holistic. We believe that in order for you to be super productive, your home life also has to be productive and has to be in control. So it doesn't affect the other. And that leads to not necessarily like work-life balance, because for C-level execs, work-life balance doesn't really exist, but it focuses on improving work-life quality, which is the quality of time that you spend on each of those things to be the highest.
Thank you. What are the top 5 features within ChatGPT most people do not use, but modern CEOs should consider using?
In terms of like what is most helpful, what I would say is that using ChatGPT, you can feed ChatGPT a lot of different data. So you can feed them a lot of different reports and a lot of different data on a specific subject. And then asking ChatGPT to then reason and then come up with like recommendations. So there's like a bunch of reports that you can get from the industry, like industry reports, and you can basically feed different reports in that have different perspectives, and then can take it can kind of triangulate and develop patterns across all 3 of them, which is really, really interesting. So that's one. The second is like if you can do the right prompts, you can also make ChatGPT write in a similar style to the exec. So that's another way. Third is that we we use ChatGPT a lot for, a lot of execs do this. I don't know if everyone does this, but it's using it as like a thinking partner and just brainstorming. That one's pretty powerful. So for C-level execs, like you don't, even if an idea sounds bad or maybe it's not that great, you can use it as a sparring partner to kind of get to know that topic a little bit better and flesh it out before you maybe share that with someone else.
Thank you. What are the top best lead generation and sales tools that executive assistants can leverage in order to help their CEOs to optimize their business?
Yeah, I mean, right now, so there's a lot of different categories. There's prospecting, and then there's actually like cold emailing, lead generation, or cold calling. So each of those different phases have different tools that you need. But a lot of tools that, from a simple perspective, I would definitely say that Apollo is a really good tool. One of the best tools I've seen for segmentation is one called clay.com, another one called curation.ai, which basically enriches the core list or like a massive list that you might have. And that helps you identify more about your ICP. So for example, let's say like, I only want a CTO that was newly on board and just came on board for 1 year. And that CTO also went to a certain college, or also that CTO works at a company that acquired 3 companies, for example. So those are like a lot of different requirements, and you need to enrich that. So you need the enrichment layer for that. And then after that, you need to actually like cold email and call them. And there's like a bunch of like cold emailing tools that you could use like instantly, that you can then like email them at a very quick rate with sequences and all scheduled and stuff like that.
Thank you. What are the best AI productivity tools that enable executive assistants to make actual sales, to turn a cold prospect into an actual sale for the CEO?
Well, EAs right now don't really do sales per se. Like they're just lead generation at the moment. But they do set it up in terms that where they contact them, they can connect with them, they know a little bit about the product, and then they just refer them into the CEO. And that's basically what the overall workflow is. In terms of how to improve that, I would say a lot of that kind of goes into training. A lot of that goes into getting the messaging right. And unfortunately, messaging, it's hard. Right now, there's no really good way to get messaging right with any kind of tool. Like there's no tool to really figure that out. A lot of it's just actual trial and error. You can use ChatGPT and AI to come up with like ideas and angles, how to get into a conversation. But overall, it's a lot of like trial and error and just trying to figure out like what works and what doesn't.
Thank you. What are the best AI lead generation tools, and how do those tools actually scrape the data to make sure that that data is actually relevant for the CEO?
I think I just mentioned those. I think I would say Clay and Curation are the ones that they're more sort of search agent-like, meaning like they're like an AI agent, and then they can go and search for that information and then collaborate on that. It's right now it's still a growing industry, and I think that AI agents is basically the future. Like HubSpot and Salesforce, everyone's talking about AI agents right now. So I would say like it's that right now is pretty much like most cutting edge at the moment.
Thank you. Can you share an example of how you've used AI tools to achieve exponential business growth for yourself or for a client?
Yeah, so I would say it's so you can use tools like Uplead or Apollo to grab like a large list, or Sales Navigator, grab a large list and scrape that, and then after that you then like put them into enrichment, which I just told you. You enrich it and then you filter, and then from there you then put that into like an email marketing tool or cold calling. Into a cold calling tool, and then you just kind of cold call out. There's a pretty interesting cold calling tool called Nook. I think it's called Nook.io or something. It's like a power dialer. That's more of like a modern cold caller that I've seen that a lot of people start using. Yeah, and then there's like a lot of other avenues, a lot of the channels that can actually attack it aside from cold calling, cold emailing. There's a lot of channels, and this is just one of them.
Thank you. Tell us more about how AI tools can help with time management and task automation, and how do EAs help with that?
So EAs, we have a set of tools that the EAs use for time. One of the big ones is that when execs have multiple calendars, if you have like 4 calendars, no AI is going to be able to help you do that currently. And so you still need a human to kind of like navigate all 4 calendars and how do you like plan your day for that. So that's one thing that we do manual. When it comes to organizing, can you repeat the second part?
I cannot, okay, let me see. I cannot remember what I actually asked you.
You're talking about time allocation and then...
So how do AI tools help with time management and task automation? And how do executive assistants help with that?
Okay, yeah, task automation. So the second part, okay. So this for the second part for task automation, we use Zapier a lot and make.com for a lot of task automation. So these tools are more standard, but the difference is that we've taught our EAs how to use them. That's like the biggest difference. So we teach them the core templates and then they just kind of do all the connections themselves. And the cool thing is once you see EAs like realize the power of Zapier, they just go wild. Like they're just like, oh my God, I can connect all these different things. It's so easy, blah, blah, blah. And then they just absorb that and learn that and really just take it to another level and come up with new Zapier recipes themselves. And that's really the coolest part.
Thank you. Does your team help with the integration of all these different automations? Because I did look at some of those integrations on social media and it did look very cool, but it did look very complex.
Yeah, so yes, they can. They can help with some of the integrations. If it's with Zapier, that type of integrations, yes. But if you're talking about like hardcore integrations involving code between 2 systems, these types of integrations probably not. But if you're talking about integration with Zapier, yeah, they can. And the reason is because we have a whole team, and the whole team basically works together to try to come up with whatever solution that needs to be. Some people are very, very tech savvy, so then they kind of act as guides and mentors to mentor other people to how to like get that done. So basically, you're leveraging sort of like the brain trust of the entire community of EAs that we have, which we have over 100 EAs. And that is something that you can't really get outside. It's just years and years and years of experience that they have, and through our training that they can just pool all their knowledge together.
Thank you. What are some common productivity bottlenecks that AI tools and executive assistants trained in AI tools can help eliminate?
One of the bottlenecks is like just time management, like time blocking is like a really good example. How do you make sure that that you're organizing your day so that you are focused on all the most important things? So that's one thing. In these cases, EAs don't necessarily use AI tools for this. It's just more of like how they know the client the best and their own judgment. 1 is time blocking, 2 is planning out their calendar better, 3 is understanding like what are the times where they are, an executive is going through, like that they're not in their zone of genius, that they're not working in the right periods of time, and that blocks them from doing what's the most important. So it's identifying what are the times of days for that. Sometimes like you get a long day, you got so many back-to-back meetings, they may not have enough energy to then go sit down and then you're like, okay, I need to sit down and do some deep work now. So how do you split up that day? Other bottlenecks is making sure that like when people are trying to demand a lot of the time, a lot of execs don't have enough time to do deep work. And so it's really just acting as that individual to block out, a lot of the extra noise and all this other stuff to make sure that the exec has, you need to do these specific things. Related to that, a lot of execs sometimes are they are lazy about doing certain things that they really don't like to do. So for example, some of them just hate doing their taxes, and that's actually blocking them. It's important, but they don't want to do it. So what our EAs will do for these tasks is they will book a time for 30 minutes and say, you need to sit with me. I'll sit in front of you on the Zoom call and I'll watch you do it. And they do it when someone watches them.
Thank you. What's the best strategy for integrating AI productivity tools into an existing workflow without overwhelming your team?
First off, you have to do it very thoughtfully. If a lot of what people might think is that, oh, you're doing these tools, and so therefore, I'm not going to have my job anymore. I think it's really the first thing you need to communicate is that by implementing these tools, implementing these workflows, what it means is that we don't need to hire more people necessarily. It's because our jobs are becoming easier. We can do more things. And so therefore, we don't need to be hiring as aggressive. So you need to state that first so that that emotional aspect, they don't get spooked out by that. That's number one. And then number two is when it comes to applying those workflows, you really want to look at the workflow itself and see what are the most common things that you see that being done. And then you figure out what are the AI tools that they can basically automate those things. And that is a combination of just analysis. And so what we do at Hermessi is we spend 2 weeks basically acting as a coach for the C-level exec to identify all the different workflows that they have. And then from there, we then evaluate, okay, what are the things that we need to put in for AI? We have playbooks and templates for that, and we might modify that to apply it to the exec that is looking to kind of improve their workflow.
Thank you. Are there any common mistakes businesses make when trying to adopt AI tools? And how can they avoid those mistakes by hiring executive assistants that are AI powered?
Okay, so a lot of the mistakes that they make is that they think AI can solve everything, and you don't do enough trial and error to make sure that it works well, or they rely too much on it. In fact, our AI assistants, there's a very clear line that we write in our policies that they do not just copy and paste AI over into what they do, into communication or whatever. Because nowadays, when you do that with AI, people can start to sense if this is written by AI or not. And so you don't want people to actually copy and paste anymore. You want them to take that information and then kind of heavily edit it and then apply and then give it to people and what they need to do. And so nowadays it's like they're more of like not just like something where like, oh, I'm lazy and I can just copy paste. Not really. It's more of like an assistive bionic feature. So that's a big mistake that people can do. That they just rely on it too much and they think that's like the thing that they will resolve. No, you still need to edit it and you still need to make sure that you make sense of it. You can't just blindly just copy and paste. That's number one. In terms of how execs can help with that, our EAs are just highly trained in basically what I said. They know exactly when they can copy paste, but most of the time they don't. And then they have to edit it and make sure that it doesn't sound AI, actually. They have to edit it in a certain way that doesn't sound. AI is very good for providing like great ideas and rewriting certain things, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's really good at replacing kind of like the human tone of things at the moment.
Thank you. Tell us some case studies that you've had where you implemented some executive assistants into other clients of yours, into the companies of clients of yours, and how did that work successfily to help the CEOs to grow their business?
Oh, 100%. So we have this one client that's in the ed tech space, and they brought on one of our EAs. That EA basically was able to handle not only all the travel and all that stuff, but they was also handle customer service, handle operations, handle hiring and recruiting. And because of that, they were able to hire more than 15 people within like 3 months. They were able to grow 3 times in terms of revenue because they were able to allow the exec to focus on what's most important. And the EA basically was able to figure out a lot of the tax and legal and administrative stuff that was required, but the exec wasn't really necessarily a good use of the exec's time. And so all in all, each day on average, we were able to add an extra 12 hours per day in time that the exec had an additional time to be more productive.
Wow, that sounds amazing. Can you tell us 2 more examples of how you helped 2 other companies to add an AI-powered executive and what impact that had on the bottom line, on the return on investment?
Yeah. So another company, it was like in the climate tech space. They we also brought in an EA to help that CEO. That CEO basically had multiple teams in different countries. They had a team in Asia and had a team in Europe. And so this CEO was traveling around a lot. And so a lot, when someone's traveling around a lot, in terms of time, you have to be very, very efficient with the amount of time that the CEO spends, and also have to care about a lot of time zones. And prior to that, his time was really all over the place. Like, he wasn't really organizing it well. He was missing a lot of calls, or he was too tired to take some calls, and also he was too tired to like work on some things because of time zone issues. When the EA came on board, just cleaned up his entire calendar. So the way how our service, I think, is, Marie Kondo, she's like the Japanese woman that helps clean people's houses. We feel like we're like the Marie Kondo of your productivity closet. And so she just came in and cleaned out all of that processes, and cleaned out all that, and made that calendar into something that allowed him to basically in like a, let's say, for example, in a 24-hour period, he had to fly for like 11 hours. He was able to make up for a lot of those hours that he lost by organizing his time correctly, working during the times of the flight, and making sure that he was able to just basically interact with people. So that's probably one that I would like mention.
Thank you. And the last case study where you implemented an AI-powered executive assistant for business growth.
So the last one is, this was a executive who writes a lot of reports for in like the digital asset space, and we were basically able to help improve the generation of his reports by 45%. And he has to collect a lot of different data from a lot of different data sources, and so we were able to increase the speed so that he can write more reports. And because he can write more reports, he could make more money. That was a lot of work where we tried to analyze the way how he collected reports, and then I developed a lot of workflows for the EA to then bring that documentation and bring that knowledge to him, so that he doesn't have to go himself to go look for it. And so it's all there, really super organized in a Notion workspace. Every single time he's about to write, and so he can then just go in and then just do it. And so he doesn't have to spend all this extra time trying to gather the information.
Follow us for more interviews with world's most influential business titans, providing you with the insights to awaken to your full potential, so you can get paid to be yourself, find true happiness, and manifest anything you desire.